Welcome to PM Movie Recaps. Today's pick is a drama and sci-fi of 2020, Proximity. If you're ready, let's enjoy the video. 1979, in Alaska. Some lumberjacks are driving down a forest path, when suddenly, one of the trucks rises to the sky, and falls back to the ground. The man in the second truck, Carl, goes to check the people inside, but they are injured and unconscious. Carl then sees a huge floating spaceship in the sky. A UFO. He is absolutely terrified and runs into the forest. But, the UFO beams light onto him, which lifts him into the air. Carl then loses consciousness. Isaac is a computer engineer, who works in the JPL branch of NASA. One day, he gets a strange signal from Canada. That night, as he's working, Isaac receives another set of data, this time from an unknown origin. He cannot make any sense of it either. Isaac has a habit of making video journals, as a form of therapy. One day, he is making a journal after a hike, when he sees a meteor breaking through the atmosphere. Everyone around notices it as well. The meteor lands right near where Isaac is. Isaac goes towards the crash site, where he sees a giant UFO floating in the sky. He is about to record it, but the UFO vanishes just like that. Suddenly, Isaac feels something behind him, and chills go down his entire body. It's an alien. He slowly turns around, and records it as well. However, the alien does not enjoy the paparazzi, so it leaves. Isaac also runs away. Suddenly, he blacks out. 3 days later, Isaac wakes up in a different location. His camera and recording are safe. He looks in, and sees himself lifting off the ground. He also notices some strange marks on his arm. Isaac is very scared and very confused. He goes home dripping with sweat. As he's staring around, the TV disappears. Isaac moves his hand, and it goes through an invisible force field. Just then, the TV reappears. Isaac focuses on the camera, and it disappears too. He focuses on the same spot, and the camera reappears. Isaac then goes to a doctor, who says that he has a fracture in his right arm. However, the cut is thin and clean, and there are no scars on his muscles. The doctor says that it's a perfect fracture, which apparently never happens. Isaac tells his coworkers what happened. But they don't believe him. So, Isaac puts the video on the internet. It immediately gets traction. Isaac scrolls through the comments. Some people seem to believe him, but most don't. Isaac also gets an interview with a news channel. There, he narrates everything he remembers about the incident. However, the interviewer is skeptical of his story, and thinks that Isaac is just making stuff up. As he's hopelessly browsing the internet, Isaac finds someone who also claims to have been abducted by aliens. So, Isaac goes to meet with this person, a girl named Sarah. As he's waiting, things around him start to float. He starts focusing deeply on them, but is brought back to reality by the waitress. Just then, Sarah also arrives. Sarah is careful of Isaac at first, but he shows her the video footage and moments in history with sightings of extraterrestrial life, and she starts warming up to him. She also mentions an abduction in 1979, the beginning. Meanwhile, an old man in a cottage can be seen, listening to their conversation. One day, a man named Keith comes up to Isaac. Keith is a writer for an online blog, and he offers to take Isaac's story to the public, properly. Isaac is doubtful at first, but when he is tormented by too many disbelievers, he goes to Keith's office. There, Keith offers to give him a lie detector polygraph test. That way, the public will know for sure. Isaac agrees, and they do the test. Isaac answers everything about the abduction truthfully. When the test proves that Isaac is not lying, Keith makes up an excuse and leaves. Immediately after, 2 men in black come and try to take Isaac away. Isaac fights back and escapes, but one of them zaps him with a futuristic gun, and Isaac loses consciousness. He wakes up after a long time, with 2 stormtrooper-looking soldiers holding him. They take him to a white room, and tie him to a chair. Isaac sees Sarah also being brought in, and taken to another room. A man appears on the screen in front of him and introduces himself as Agent Graves. Agent Graves is the son of the man we saw in the first truck at the beginning, the one driving in front of Carl. Agent Graves asks Isaac to be compliant. He makes Isaac focus on some random things, but when nothing happens, he gets disappointed. He then shows him a picture of Carl, but Isaac does not recognize him. In his frustration, Agent Graves accidentally reveals to Isaac that Carl is somewhere in Canada. Isaac starts getting nervous with all the questionings. So, he struggles against his bindings until he breaks free of them. When the stormtroopers try to subdue him, he fights back, hitting one in the face. Surprisingly, what looks like lava flows out. Isaac goes to the next room and releases Sarah. The two then start running down the tunnel, with the guards shooting at them. When they come to a locked door, Isaac focuses his mind on it until he unlocks it. Isaac and Sarah come out to the surface, and realize they're in Costa Rica. Meanwhile, Agent Graves commands his men to follow the trackers that they've placed on the two of them. Isaac and Sarah ask a woman where they can get an internet connection. The woman tells them to go find a man named Zed in the next village. Isaac and Sarah finally reach the next village and find Zed. Just then, the stormtroopers also arrive. So, Zed quickly takes Isaac and Sarah away. Zed says that the stormtroopers are the secret police, used by a very secret organization focusing on outer space. Zed then takes them to a treehouse, in the middle of the forest. As he fixes up some radio, Sarah and Isaac get to know each other. Sarah narrates her tale of when she was abducted, which is very similar to Isaac's own experience. She too struggled with making people believe her. Isaac remembers the two signals he got earlier. One from Canada, and one from an unknown source. So, he tells Zed to log into the JPL satellite, and from there, they trace the first signal to a cottage, in a remote location in British Columbia, Canada. They make a call to the place, and the old man from earlier answers. It's Carl. However, Carl quickly shuts down the call. So, Zed bypasses the security, and makes the call again. Isaac quickly tells him who he is and he saw. He mentions the unknown signal he received, and that catches Carl's attention. Carl asks for the file, which Isaac sends to him. Carl puts the file through a decoder that he has developed, and a message plays in English. It's from the aliens who say that they are coming. Then, they give a location, time, and date, which is 5 days from now. Isaac realizes that they need to go to Canada. Sarah is absolutely terrified of meeting the aliens again, but Isaac manages to convince her, saying that they need answers. So, Zed fixes up a local seaplane, and they fly to British Columbia, Canada. Unknown to them, Agent Graves is tracking their every move. In Canada, the three of them hitch a ride, all the way to Carl's location. There, they notice that they're being watched, by cameras everywhere. Carl comes out, and welcomes them with a big-ass rifle. When he recognizes Isaac, he brings out a device, which he runs over their arms. The trackers inside them are deactivated, and Agent Graves is not happy. Carl says that they have 2 days, until the aliens arrive. Inside, Carl tells them his story of how he was abducted, how the government kept him, and how, after escaping them, he accumulated all these devices over the years, and tried to recontact the aliens. He has also developed a device that can translate the alien language into English. The four of them spend the next 2 days, nervously waiting for the aliens to arrive. In the meantime, Zed and Carl bond over their mutual love for technology. Zed is impressed with everything that Carl has managed to figure out, despite not having a formal education. On the eve of the arrival, Isaac thanks Sarah for being there for him, and understanding what he's been through. Sarah also thanks him vice versa. On the day of the arrival, the earth shakes. Isaac goes out to the woods alone, where he meets the alien again. They go back to Carl's cabin, where they all sit together and talk. They manage to communicate with the translator that Carl invented. The humans ask the aliens why they are here, to which the aliens reply that they have mastered everything about medicine, science, and so forth. Now, they are looking for the origin of life here on Earth. The alien then shows a vision to Isaac, the vision of a divine man surrounded by the lights of heaven itself. The alien says that the man in the vision is the link to the origin of everything. He is the greatest common factor in all of humanity. The alien asks who he is. Isaac gives the name of Jesus, but he probably means God in general. Sarah also asks about the pain in her arm. So, the alien puts a band on her, which starts glowing blue. Then, her arm separates into two, with no pain at all. From there, the alien removes a tracking device that it apparently put there for their records. Just then, the men in black arrive. Carl goes outside to face them, and Agent Graves demands to know where his father is. Apparently, back in 1979, his father had also gone missing. Since only Carl came back, he blames Carl for his father's disappearance. Despite Carl's protests, Agent Graves does not believe him, and commands his men to shoot him. Sarah goes to look after Carl, and Agent Graves commands his men to shoot her as well. The alien removes Isaac's tracker, and tells him to focus, and use all his senses. It then disappears into an invisible force field. So, Isaac focuses super hard on saving his friends. Just as Agent Graves' men shoot into the cabin, everything slows down. Isaac walks out calmly like Quicksilver, and picks up Sarah. He then focuses hard, and moves her to another reality. He does the same with Carl and Zed. Pretty much the multiverse of madness from this point on. Agent Graves and his men are shocked to see everyone missing from the cabin. Meanwhile, Isaac and the others are in a different reality, with the aliens. The aliens kill Carl and Sarah, after which they walk away, right past Agent Graves in the other reality. They sense each other, without seeing each other. Just then, everyone sees the giant UFO, hovering over their heads. 6 months later, Isaac and Sarah are now living in a beach house in Costa Rica. They are living a normal life, but Isaac does use his new superpowers, occasionally. Carl and Zed have started their own tech information agency. Agent Graves was convicted of human rights crimes, and fired from his position. In the end, Isaac says goodbye to the camera, saying that they'll meet again. Thank you for watching, but before leaving please make sure that you click subscribe and turn on the notification so that you can enjoy watching more videos like this.